Hello, Dr. Bedinghaus here. Welcome to our Friday interview. And I'm really thrilled this week to have Jennifer Iserloh, a wonderful human being, first of all. And I think she's probably a pretty good expert in food. Jennifer, for the last 20 years, has championed a healthier, holistic lifestyle based on choosing healthy, delicious meals and a soulful mind body practice that she's been able to bring forth from all of her years of study in a variety of different things like yoga, Ayurveda, and functional nutrition. So I am thrilled to welcome Jennifer.
Hi there, Dr.
Hello.
Wanda. Such a pleasure to be here with you.
I
And
know
I
I've
just
been.
love the work you're doing too. I admire practitioners who are really helping people beat chronic illness and change their lives for the better. So thank you so much for all the work you've been doing.
Well, you've been sort of a tangential part of my life now for almost 3 years working with Uli and Big Boost Marketing, which has actually changed my whole perspective about how to communicate what I do and what functional medicine offers for people. So I'm just thrilled with this whole new phase of my life. So anyway,
Well,
everybody always wants to know how in the world did you get started in nutrition and food and all
oh
the.
goodness, yeah. My life has been really exciting. I always call it trial by fire. So when
Mhm.
I was in my 30s, my late 20s, I was having a lot of digestive issues, a lot of mindset issues, and I found yoga. And through my yoga meditation practice and my interest in nutrition, I hadn't studied at that point, but I just started to dabble. I started to understand that there were a lot of things I could do to really change my mind, change my body, but that had a huge impact on my career. And my dream was always to do something creative. And I also had a dream of becoming a chef, but I was too scared to do it back then. And one day I was in yoga and we were doing this fear meditation. And I realized, what's the worst thing that could happen? They boot me out of a kitchen or I don't make it. And I go back to my old boring job, being an office manager. So I just bit the bullet and I went to culinary school and amazing things happened. And, I was practicing yoga all through culinary school and meditation. And, when I came out of culinary school, I ended up working for celebrities. I worked in the Hamptons for some famous people. I worked for a famous photographer in Manhattan. And then I started food writing and I got really interested in health. And that's really what brought me to nutrition. And one of my first jobs working as a writer was to work with Joy Bauer from the Today Show. And she did a book called Food Cures. And it was all about working with amazing foods that heal your body. And that was my first experience with superfoods and starting to learn about adaptogens. And I started to go deeper down the rabbit hole of functional medicine later on. But I had a lot of exciting experiences, and I felt like I was kind of thrown into these. But the more I started studying yoga and alchemy and synchronicities, I think things happen when you put yourself out there and you're willing. Even though at the time I didn't feel ready for it, but yeah, so that was I would say about 8 years of my career working as a chef, and then I started to delve deeper. I retired from the chefing part and worked as a writer for almost 20 years.
That's phenomenal. Uh, food is such an interesting subject. I have a lot of patients who get scared when I mention, hey, let's look at your diet and let's see if we
Yeah.
can make some modifications. So, tell us about alchemy. A lot of
Yeah,
people don't know
sure,
what
sure.
that
And
is.
that popped into my mind immediately because I think food, people see it, people think, okay, food is there to nourish us, and maybe they sort of dumb it down. But what people don't realize is that food actually hits every part of who we are as human beings. And the deeper I started going down the rabbit hole of health in general, with my yoga practice, with understanding nutrition, I realized all these things are linked together.
Yeah.
And about 8 years ago, I decided I wanted to write this book on alchemy. I was very attracted to alchemy, and alchemy really breaks it down for you. It's the body, the mind, which is the brain, and the emotions. And you've got kind of those three pieces going all the time. And food hits all those areas. So
Mhm.
food is there to nourish our bodies, but we have a huge emotional attachment to food.
Yeah.
Food is also community, and we can also intellectualize food. How are we raising food in our environment? How is food impacting our economy? Are we using food to poison? Are we using food to heal? How do we advertise food? Is food pleasure? Is it porn? Or is it just there to support our bodies? Or some people even just see food as sort of a necessity. It's just really interesting how food can hit all these three big areas: the mind, the body, and the soul, or the emotions. So, once I started to get into that, I realized if I'm going to help people get better about their food, because that's always been a long-term mission of mine, is that,
Yeah.
you can heal through food. You really have to look at the story and the dialogue that people have going on in the background. And a lot of times people know, but there are also a lot of subconscious sort of beliefs. And, as a person who was raised in a family who just absolutely obsessed with food, loved food, but also struggled with obesity, emotional eating, and a lot of health conditions because of food choices, I would say I'm pretty, adept at talking about this, because I've had to rehab a lot of that without shaming my family. I still kept a lot of the good parts, the cooking and the celebratory nature of food and the pleasure of sharing food, but also understanding how do you take that in a context and put it around healthy practices versus the unhealthy practices I grew up with: overeating and eating so much you had to unbutton your pants, and getting up in the middle of the night and eating things we know, harm our health, versus eating something that's nourishing when we're actually hungry. So, food is just such a hot topic for a lot of people. And I don't think people need to be scared. I think people need to educate themselves, to be more aware, and understand that food does have all these areas. And we need to look at all these areas of what you're doing with food if you truly want to be healthy.
Yeah, and the emotional aspect of food, it's amazing to me. And when I see a new patient, I go all the way back through their family, and they even fill out the adverse childhood experiences little
Mhm.
questionnaire to see, because people who come in and they have a weight problem, and many times they have been harmed or shamed about their body, and so they have a poor body image. As a matter of fact, I had someone say not long ago, I'm afraid to be seen, you know, because we shame people if they're overweight. And, how do you work around that with someone?
Yeah, I think there's a couple pieces to that. It's one thing to tell someone you don't have to feel shame, or, you can still have pleasure from food and it can be nutritious at the same time. I think people already know that, but it's first having the understanding that people go through trauma. And a lot of times food plays a role in that trauma, that they use the food as a coping mechanism, or food is just folded in because it's a trauma that their parents have carried, that their grandparents have carried, and it's something that's been passed down in generations. And that's what I experienced. So I think when people understand I've been through some of the same types of trauma they've experienced, they feel safe. So as a practitioner and as a patient, you have to first, as a practitioner, you have to show it's a safe place to talk about this. And
Yeah.
that's another reason why I always share my own experiences, even though I'm not a practitioner like yourself, but I do work with people who have food issues. The second piece of that is that the person has to feel okay opening up to you. And that's kind of the role of a good listener and a good therapist. And in a way, functional medicine practitioners and great doctors and great healers and great coaches, we're all therapists in a way.
Yeah.
And then there's one other piece that I think is just innate, in that, are you the kind of person that people feel comfortable sharing their darkness with, their secrets with? And, I happen to be one of those people where, I might be on a bus going to Manhattan, or I might be in the subway, and a person will sit next to me and they'll share their whole life story. And they'll say to me, "Oh my God, I feel like I've known you forever." Or they tell me these secrets. I mean, sometimes I don't want to know if they're not my client, but if they're my client, of course I want to know. So
Yeah.
it's a relationship that has to be built up. Obviously, there's other techniques we can use. There's things in mysticism we can do, like crystals, there's meditation, there's things like tapping we can use. There's techniques in yoga that we can use to help to uncover some of the subconscious things. Because what I really want to hear when I'm working with somebody is, what is the subconscious messaging? So they may come in and say, oh, Jen, I feel embarrassed about my weight, or I grew up in a family of emotional eaters. And so many people identify with that. But what is the story they're telling themselves underneath there that is causing the habits to continue? So the subconscious story may be something like, I'm not worthy,
Mhm.
or I don't feel smart enough, or my parent was told they weren't smart enough, so they're passing that programming down to me, even though they may have never said to the child, you're not smart enough. It may be the offhanded comments, it may be the hurtful comments about the weight, because the parents, ashamed of their own weight, they may say to the child, oh, look, you have fat thighs, or you have this or that. So this programming sometimes happens in childhood, and it can be very subtle. But I think, if you want to build a healthier relationship with yourself, release trauma and release the trauma around food, you have to have the light bulb moment where you bring the subconscious material up into the conscious mind. Sometimes that can actually just happen through talking to somebody who knows where you've been, and that person can ask the right questions. So a lot of times when I'm coaching somebody, I sort of intuitively know what it is. I can't just come out and ask them, because that might make them feel a little challenged, but I can start to ask questions around that to help them process that, or help them to bring it to the forefront. Once
Yeah.
we bring the demon out of the closet, or that subconscious, and I'm laughing because it's never really a demon, it's always a mouse, and the mouse is casting this big shadow and we're terrified of it. But once we bring that to the subconscious mind, we're like, oh my goodness, is this the thing that when I was 5 years old, my parents said this? Well, now that I'm an adult, that no longer scares me because I'm looking at it from an adult perspective. But you need to be aware of it. It has to be subconscious material that you become aware. Because unfortunately, when people are constantly making poor decisions around food, there's inevitably something subconscious going on. It's a trigger.
Oh, absolutely. And it is such a big issue. I don't usually have somebody come in who is, 130 pounds and worried about their weight. Not usually, but anyway. So we know that food is really the nutrition is one of the key foundational lifestyle things in functional medicine, and that's why I can never get enough information about it. And it's amazing to me, first of all, if there's so many things about food, it's not only that it's there and we're making good choices, but that we have to assimilate it. We have to eat it, we digest it, and be sure that it's getting to all the wonderful cells that need the energy from that food. So it is vital. And, people, I try to get people to do an elimination diet when I first see them, but I used to be a little bit more dogmatic about it, but now I kind of creep in the back door and said, "Oh, by the way, perhaps this would be a good place to start, so we can see if any foods are causing some of your symptoms, if not all of them." But anyway, now I'm making a quick diversion because I've been posting about mushrooms this week, and I promised people that we would talk about mushrooms.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. So, just to say a word about nutrition, it's a huge topic. But the first thing that you need to think about is, a lot of people just approach food from, do I like it? Which is
yeah,
fine. Like, I understand that. I'm a former chef. And most people who overeat still are nutrient deficient. A lot of people think because they have plenty to eat, they have all the nutrients. So when you don't have the nutrients on board, you can have a lot of health symptoms. You can have depression. You can have joint pain. You can have sleep issues. So I think people don't realize how important nutrition is, and they see it as something sciencey or boring. But when you're able to cook delicious food that's nutritious too, you can have the best of both worlds. Just cook. That's the answer. So that's one of the reasons I'm constantly teaching cooking. And you can learn to make gluten-free, dairy-free foods delicious. The other piece is gut health. A lot of people have really poor gut health. So if you're not taking care of your gut health, you're not going to feel emotionally good. You're going to have symptoms. You're going to have weight gain. You're going to struggle with a lot. So just cleaning up your food can help to clean up those other areas of that alchemical triangle we talked about, the mind and the emotions. It can help your brain and it can help you feel better. So, it's really important to understand, but unfortunately, there's a lot of wrong nutritional information out there. So it's really important to get your information from the correct place, like Dr. Wanda, for example. So that being said, I think it's interesting that you picked mushrooms, because to me, mushrooms is one of those super alchemical foods. So when I talk about foods that are alchemical, I'm speaking about foods that can transform you. When people hear the word alchemy, they think about transformation. They think about Harry Potter, or they think about turning lead to gold. Well, that's exactly what's happening with foods. When you choose the right foods, you're turning kind of your crappy cellular junk and your poor gut health into something that's more resilient by including these foods and cooking them in a way that's, promotes your health. And mushrooms are definitely one of those foods. So mushrooms are interesting because they just have so many health properties. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Before I talk about that, another reason I love mushrooms is that they're freaking delicious. I mean, they're one of those foods that taste like meat. They have amino acids in them that when you heat them and cook them, they have something called umami. So in the chef world, that is the term for savoriness, and it's an Asian term. And when you sear a mushroom, it really has kind of that fifth taste of savory deliciousness. And, mushrooms can just really elevate a dish, even if you're cooking something as simple as, vegetables. If you top it with a seared shiitake mushroom or lion's mane mushroom, if you can find them fresh, they're incredible. And, mushrooms just have a wide range. Folate is one of the things, B vitamins, and they're being studied right now for all sorts of health benefits.
Yeah.
Adaptogenic mushrooms is another thing I'm really fascinated by, and I continue to study. So, besides the B vitamins, there's also another compound. I just want to check my notes here because I'm forgetting. 1 second. I think I need to add some more mushrooms to my diet here. Here it is.
For your brain.
Yeah, for your brain, because it was one particular. Oh, polysaccharides. Yeah, so polysaccharides are one compound that are amazing for gut health, brain health, vitamin D. But I do want to say something. A lot of people try to get their vitamin D from food. So one thing I will caution, just from my own experience, it's very hard to get the full load of vitamin D from your food. I've tried. I also have a gene mutation where I have a hard time producing vitamin D. So in terms of nutrition, I always recommend people get their genetics tested to see where you have those genetic issues so that you can fortify with medical grade supplements in addition to eating. Now, that being said, I do eat a lot of mushrooms, and I do eat a lot of different mushrooms. So we have culinary mushrooms. We have things like shiitake, button mushrooms, portobello, baby bello. By the way, never eat portobello mushrooms raw. They actually have a toxin in them. Make sure you cook.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I learned that from Paul Stamets. So Paul Stamets is like the mushroom guru of the world. He actually produces really good products, adaptogenic products. So we have culinary mushrooms, which are powerful alchemical, and then we have adaptogenic mushrooms, which are one level up. So adaptogens in general can just help us to adapt to our environment. So if you're feeling too tired, they can help lift you up, or you're too stressed, they bring you down. So when you hear adaptogenic, you can think of adapt. And one of the reasons they do this is that they have these very powerful compounds that help them survive in the wild. So a lot of adaptogens live in very harsh climates. They live in places like the Himalayas or Himalayan mountains, or places where it's constantly raining or constantly snowing. And they're wonderful for us as well. And they're very easy to combine in everyday meals. I actually do adaptogenic mushrooms. Turkey tail is one of my favorites. Being studied for its prevention of breast cancer. And I also like reishi for its ability to help upgrade your liver health. And I get them in powdered form. Make sure you're doing organic. Paul Stamets has a line of those, and I sprinkle them in my smoothie every morning. I actually put them in Uli's smoothie. He doesn't know. I just sprinkle them in there. So if you're cooking for your spouse and you kind of want to, upgrade, you can sprinkle away. So yeah, there's a lot of different things you can do with mushrooms. You can turn them into soups. I do a chicken marsala that is out of this world, and
Mm.
I love to use a baby bellow mushrooms for that. I use a grass-fed butter. Sometimes I do thyme or tarragon. I do put a little bit more of marsala cooking wine, but the alcohol burns off if you're concerned about alcohol consumption, because we know alcohol isn't great for our brain. Even though I do have my weekly 1 glass of wine, I still enjoy myself once a week. But there's just so many things you could do with them, or you could just cook a batch of them in a little bit of olive oil and garlic and have a snack. I know that sounds like an unconventional snack, but sometimes I will do that because I'm always thinking, how can I get more of these powerful healing foods into my diet and onto my plate?
Yeah, and it's hard to find mushrooms. Uh, Basically, the with portobello and the little button ones. What kind are they? I mean,
Yeah, so the button
yellow.
mushrooms, yeah, or just the standard culinary. The baby bello or the baby bella are baby portobellos. So
Okay,
usually when
I
you
didn't
go
know
to the
that.
grocery store, you'll find those three varieties.
Yeah.
So honestly, if you can't find the adaptogenic mushrooms like the lion's mane, which looks like a big head of hair,
Mhm.
it's quite delicious. If you go to a health food store, sometimes they have them fresh. You can get those powdered and dried, and they're on Amazon, and you can just ship them to your house. But for the fresh, just do the culinary mushrooms. They're still full of the health benefits. You're still getting, all the good nutrients that we mentioned, the folate, the B vitamins. They contain thiamine, they contain niacin. They're great for cholesterol. So many health benefits, great for gut health. But when you're preparing them, I never suggest eating them raw. You don't have to worry about eating the baby bella, but you don't really get the savoriness until you cook them.
Yeah, they're
It's
different. Hmm.
yeah, it's like when you cook them, their flavor completely changes. And then if you're going to cook portobellos, always take out the gills underneath those black things. That's one
Really?
of my pet peeves as a chef is when somebody cooks the gills. It's like, ah, they taste awful. So all you need to do, they're so simple to remove. Just take a little spoon. It can be a teaspoon. It can be a measuring spoon, whatever you have on hand. And you just get a piece of wax paper, put it down, and scoop those onto the wax paper and bundle it up and throw it out. No chef uses those gills, and they taste so much better without. I actually do a pizza with them. So I scoop up the gills, I put those on a baking sheet. I do parchment instead of aluminum because it's safer. And then I do a nice, good quality tomato sauce. And I use a grass-fed cheese because I don't react to dairy. If you do react to dairy, you could do some sauteed spinach on top and just make like a tomato based and put that under the you can also do nutritional yeast, which sort of tastes like Parmesan, and just put that under the broiler for a minute or bake them at 350 for about 12 minutes, and they're awesome. But yeah, definitely there's a lot of versatility with working with mushrooms. Just cook them. I know sometimes people put them raw in a salad, but I don't know. And then the other ones I find at grocery stores often are shiitake. Just make sure you remove the stem because the stem tastes very woody. And the chefs, when we worked in restaurants, we never used the stem of shiitake unless we were making a mushroom stock. That
Mm.
was good for that. You can throw them into your composting pile if you don't want to waste the stems. And then with the shiitake, I usually thinly slice them and I make like a fried rice. And then I fry an egg separately and I'll thinly slice that and toss that in. And sometimes in my fried rice, I do Brussels sprouts. So I have like a little vegetable slicer, or sometimes I'll just do cabbage because cruciferous vegetables are another alchemical food, especially good for gut detox, estrogen detox if you're estrogen dominant like myself. So, fried rice is just such an easy way. You can toss so many good veggies in there. And I usually cook the mushrooms and the vegetables first to get a good flavor on them. And then I put the day old rice in. And,
Mhm.
I limit the amount of rice I use because now that I'm 50, of course, I take a look at the
50.
yeah. I'm 50. I'll be 51 in July. So,
Well,
yes.
we won't go into age, okay? I'm a wee bit older than you, but my gosh, you're making me hungry. uh, you know, the thing that is so every time I interview somebody who is a foodie or whatever, I get so excited because we get bored. I get bored. Sometimes I go to the grocery store or to the natural groceries here, in Denver, and they're not. You don't have as many variety of veggies that we need. It's like you get squash and zucchini and greens and things like that, but there's so many vegetables that we just don't have enough of. So
So we have to think about the preparation. You got to mix up the preparation. Yeah.
right, and I just get, I don't know, we all get busy and we are too quick to just grab something and grab and go. Okay, so gosh, I could talk to you all day, but I know you have things to do. But how are people going? Tell us how you work with people and how, if anybody's interested in engaging with you, how are they going to do that?
Yeah. So I do have an online coaching program, which you know about. So I do have that as an option for people to go through. It's an online program, and we work on the 6 pillars of health, and we just touch on all these areas. So that's a way for them to kind of a do it yourself. A lot of people prefer to work with me one on one, and they'll come to me to work on one of those 3 areas. So either it's the food, the emotions, or the mindset. And what I usually do is do an intake call to first see if we're a good fit, because if somebody's struggling with an area that I know I can't help them with, I have so many wonderful practitioners I can refer them out. Especially if I see somebody who's dealing with something like really severe hormone imbalances, I really want them to get the proper hormone testing or the
Mhm.
gut testing, because I know they may be dealing with something like insufficient thyroid, which
Yeah.
that's the reason they're feeling depressed, or that's why they are unfocused. It's nothing to do with their mindset per se. It's something that's out of my wheelhouse. So
Yeah.
that's the first step. And then next we take a deep dive, and we have a conversation to figure out where we can do the most work together, and we work on that area. So a lot of times when I see there's one area they want to work on, I will incorporate something from the other area because they all are related to each other. But I really cherry pick what I help people with, because at this point my knowledge is it's a lot. I don't just do, just like functional medicine doctors aren't going to give you everything they know about the body. It's going to be too much. And I really want to focus on how I can get you to the next level. So I really assess where you are with your lifestyle habits, if you have a meditation practice, where you are with your spiritual practice, where you are with food, where you are with your relationship with food. And then we look at your health goals and we work there. And that might require bringing in meditation, which I'm trained in. I'm trained in yoga. That might require working on the cooking aspect. So I have the chefing background, and of course my yoga certification, which helps me teach people with meditation and really look at the mindset too, because a lot of times it's a mindset block. And, we talk about that kind of subconscious, what's going on in the subconscious, and how we can change the self-talk and the dialogue to open up into something that, is healthier and more healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of times people find me through recommendations, or they go to my
True.
website,
Which is, I'm going to put it in, I hope.
bodyandsoulalchemy.com. Yeah, bodies. And it's a lot of people come to me through, they see me on TikTok. So I have a profile there. So on my TikTok, I'm really talking about all these areas all the time. I'm doing videos. Yep, that's the website. And the TikTok is the same. It's Body and Soul Alchemy. So you see me there, I'm cooking, or I'm talking about sleep. I go into mindset. I talk about meditation. So I'm really talking about holistic health. So when we talk about holistic health, we really cover these 3 areas. And then in the health coaching program, we break it down into 6 modules. There's 2 modules for each area. So, we're talking about gut health, nutrition, meditation, mindset. Do you have some kind of spiritual practice, relationships?
Um,
And also just, how do you live everyday life? What are you doing to distress? How are your relationships? So those are the areas we're looking at. I know it sounds overwhelming. I think I've been doing it so long, just like Dr. Wanda. She comes in, and as a clinician, she looks at all the testing and she's like, this person has, well, they've been told they have IBS, but it's actually leaky gut. Or this person
mhm.
has autoimmune, or this person has hypothyroidism, or this person just really needs some nutritional support. We sort of look at all those different areas and figure out, and that's the job of a good coach and a good clinician, to figure out where you have the weak spots and how we can help you with those.
Yeah, and it's vital. I think every functional medicine doctor should have a coach like you. They're not always easy to find, but on your website, you have different ways they can get involved, and they can even just schedule a what we call a discovery call with
Mhm.
you and find out more about. And that's all on your website, right?
It is. It
How
is. And
to do that.
that's, yeah, and that's just an easy way for me to also, first I listen. That's the biggest piece. And I think too, when people have struggled with their health, that's the greatest thing when they come to a functional medicine. Oh my God, this person's actually hearing and listening. But during the listening, I'm also starting to understand where I can be of service. It's not about me, it's where can I support you? Or am
Yeah.
I the right coach to support you? Maybe not, but I know someone, I know hundreds of amazing healers and practitioners, and I want people to get the best help and the best care, and I want them to get unblocked. So I'm going to send you to the person I know is a good fit if I'm not the right fit. So I think that's important, is to have that intake no matter what, to have that discovery call so we can discover more about you and where we can help.
Yeah, that's just the way I do it too, because I can't do everything for everybody. And boy, it's so important to have a good uh, collaboration with other people who do things that we can't be good at everything. But now, do you also have a program for practitioners, or do we? Did that?
Yeah, yeah. So I did touch on that briefly, and I'm following the 6 pillars of functional health in it, and practitioners are able to white label that. And, I really created it keeping in mind that practitioners have so much to do. They have so much on their plate. And a lot of times they don't have the energy to mentor a coach, or they want something to help patients because they're not able to do all the coaching because they're too busy doing the clinical side, and I'm sure they get bombarded with questions. Oh my God, is this product safe? How do I go gluten-free, dairy-free? How do I start meditating? My sleep is off. I have a whole module that just focuses on sleep and circadian rhythm and redoing your bedroom and why you shouldn't have your phone there and the aura ring and how to chart your sleep. So it's really just a 101 of everything that functional medicine practitioners teach patients so that patients can go through, the program. And it's great for practitioners because you can white label it. And, depending if you have go high level in place or not, we can just snap it right onto your practice. And the other piece is, you and I can have that conversation where you can say, hey, this is Jen. She'll be walking you through the program. So, sort of like Jen is your health coach, your virtual support, and also, options for the practitioners to do additional videos that we put into the program. Another reason why I love the program is it's over 90 videos. So, it's really time consuming for practitioners to shoot and film all those videos, along with the 50 gluten-free, dairy-free recipes that I do. And they're not just recipes, they're actually videoed. And I'm giving kitchen tips, just like I did with today's interview, so that practitioners can decide what part of the program they want to use. If they want to use the program as a way to run a challenge, if they just want to do sleep and stress, they can just sort of block off the other stuff and just have the sleep module and the stress management module. They want to do movement. I teach yoga in it and basic kettlebell. And it's very high level 101. So it's even if people have joint pain, they can sit in a chair and do some of the yoga poses. It's really beginning weightlifting, but it's really targeted for people in the ages of, I would say, 40 to 70, women going through perimenopause. I've been through a lot of the things myself, so I know exactly what women are going through. So how do you fit this into your day? How do you learn about these areas without making it too complex? And also, how do you get the right information? So this is a program that I actually wrote, and Uli helped me write it too. Uli actually filmed it. So yeah, it was a labor of love. It took me almost a year to put it together, but
Well,
it's something.
I forgot how to sign up for it. Are you going to tell me later?
Yeah, I'll send you a free pass so that you can, scoot around in there and check it out. And yeah, so it's just something that it's good for practitioners that don't have time and they want to be able to offer something more. But it's also good for practitioners who want to give kind of introductory knowledge to their patients, and then they can go deeper if they want to spend one-on-one time. But what I found when I've worked with practitioners a lot, because I do coaching and copywriting for them as part of my husband's company, is that they're just repeating themselves this, over and over again, or they're giving a PDF and then the person is kind of missing the mark or not doing the things, or the patient really needs a video tutorial. But practitioners are just so strapped. They're running their practice, they're working, they're worrying about the marketing, they're worrying about being a clinician, and they're already spending hours and hours one-on-one with patients. It's a lot. So I wanted to give something to practitioners that could help free them up so that they could focus on what they need to do, which is the clinical aspect of the practice.
Yeah, I watched quite a bit when you first launched it, and I thought they were great. The videos are short, to the point, very clear, and so I would really I think that's where I want to go next. But anyway, is there anything else you want to tell our people? And if anybody, let me see here. If you want to make a comment, you just click on a comment to show it on the screen. I'm sure. I forgot how to do this.
No worries.
Anyway, you can always comment later, folks, and I will get back with you. But is there anything else that you want to share with us? Let me put this up one more time. This is how to get in touch with Jennifer, and she's got some great programs and a variety of different modules. So you can start with a free discovery call with Jennifer, so you can find out a little bit more about her and she can find out about you.
Yeah, I guess I would just leave you with one thought, and anybody out there. I think a lot of times people feel stuck with their health and they feel like they've tried everything, but the truth of the matter is they haven't had the right guide.
Yeah.
So wherever you're stuck, there is someone like Dr. Wanda, like myself, and other people in our community who have been where you are, and they have figured it out and they can help you. So just realize, you can't always do it yourself. It's not always, DIY health. You need to actually have a guide who can give you that knowledge, give you the tool, give you the know-how to get through being stuck. And once you get unstuck, the world is your oyster. Just from my own experience with my mindset and a lot of my health issues, being able to heal and feeling more whole has enabled me to go after my dream, but also just find myself in communities of amazing people and achieve everything I wanted to achieve. And, not being healthy holds you back from your life. So don't be afraid to ask for help. And it's all about finding the right person to do that.
I agree wholeheartedly. And functional medicine is really as far as I'm concerned, the best avenue for that, with its modifications too, and how different people practice. But anyway, Jennifer, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate you and the work that you do. And I know that people have really enjoyed this. And a reminder to everyone, this is recorded and it will be on our YouTube channel and it will be also on this Facebook group. So thank you so much for attending, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you.